It's Dave and Evelyn from the camera store, and today we're taking a look at the new and already very high demand Leica Q3.
So Evelyn, this is the Leica Q3, and as the name suggests, this is the third generation of their Q series.
Yeah, and there's been a lot of buzz about this because it makes a lot of big steps for Leica in terms of the technology it's offering. First of all, we have a phase detection autofocus system. It's a hybrid system. We're going to get into that a little bit later on.
We also have some physical changes. We have a flippy screen, which is a first in the Q series.
Yeah, a beautiful 60 megapixel sensor. And we're going to talk about why we think that this Leica camera is one of the best value. The entire Q system is built around this amazing 28mm Summilux f1.7 lens. And this is a gorgeous lens, not only with the Leica looks and feel of it, but also optical quality as well.
But you might think, it's a 28mm fixed lens. What if I'm a 35mm guy and I want a bit more? Well, I'm actually okay with 28 because I can crop a little bit, but you can go beyond that with this camera.
Yeah, so it's neat that Leica does put in their crop lines, so you can do 35mm, 50mm, or 90mm equivalent with those crop lines. And I love that when you bring it into programs like Lightroom, you can actually go into your crop settings and then you see the full width of the image.
Yeah, so you can always do it in post. If you're going to save it as a 90mm, you are going down to much lower resolution. However, still very usable resolution.
Oh yeah, and with that 60 megapixel sensor, it's now becoming a more practical option. I also have to say just some of the nifty little features with this lens. It just feels so good. I mean, the clicky aperture ring, it's just a very tactile experience. I love that you have this little lever here for doing manual focus, and then that button is actually where you activate between doing autofocus or manual focus.
And let's not forget, we do have the ability to make one big switch over and go into a macro setting here, which allows us to get extremely close to some subjects. Take a look at these flower shots here, and you'll see how close you can get.
And just like the previous Q bodies, we have a dual axis image stabilization system that's in the lens. And because this is all just one fixed unit, we have a leaf shutter. And so that's part of the lens assembly as well. And the great thing with that is if you're someone that wants to shoot with strobes, you can actually do very high sync speeds up to 1/2000th of a second.
So that's very impressive. The other thing about leaf shutters is that they're incredibly quiet. There's just that really satisfying click when you want to take that picture.
And we have to say, I mean, you don't really think of value when you think of Leica, but if you're looking at some options, if maybe you were considering the M series and it seems a little bit out of reach, this really brings it home by putting this package together with this lens.
I mean, if you look at it, at a 28mm 1.7 Summilux for Leica M11, it's about the price of this entire camera. So you're kind of getting this amazing lens and the camera for free.
It's just starting to drizzle here in the park. Now I know Drew's getting a little bit nervous about some of his sound equipment, but I'm not worried about the Leica Q3 at all because it still maintains an IP52 rating. So there's very few cameras on the market. Leica is one of them, as well as Pentax, that actually does an IP52 type rating. So it can handle a little bit of drizzle. And this body and lens combination is just built to be very robust. It's durable. It has such a nice feel to it. I love the texture on the camera. So many subtle little things that just make a Leica camera feel amazing in your hand. And they've done a few things to refine that as well. We now have a better electronic viewfinder. So it's a 5.7 million dots electronic viewfinder, nice refresh rate as well as good magnification. And so the experience of shooting with it, but then also being able to review those 60 megapixel high resolution files is also just really dreamy. You have to experience it. If you've never actually used an electronic viewfinder, Leica has put in a very nice one. I have to also mention that the thumb divot, the little spot on the back, it just adds this great little feeling to the camera. It makes you feel very secure when you're holding it. I like the dials on the top of it. I like that we have some additional programmable buttons on the back side of the camera. And then we can't forget that they put a new battery in it, getting better battery life. And then we have the fast memory card slot. It's the UHS-2 SD memory card slot. So we have one of those as well. We mentioned before that it has the tiltable articulating screen. It's nice that it's touch screen operation as well. It does make the camera just a tiny bit thicker and it's not fully flush with the body. So some people might not like that, but I think it's worth the benefit of having the articulation. So you can do from the hip shooting, you can do different angles, whether you're trying to shoot up or down. Now it's really starting to come down here. So for the sake of our audio equipment, we're gonna move on from here. We were starting to get a little bit of hail on us. We found a bit of shelter
You
to
gotta
talk
love
about.
springtime in Calgary, right? Like 1 minute it's great, 1 minute it's hailing. Amazing.
Yeah, no, I do love it actually. But I have to say that there's a couple other things I wanted to mention in terms of the build and handling of the camera. In addition to the Q3 is a USB-C port, and this is very exciting because you can charge on the go. So when I brought this to a music festival, it was like a camping festival in the middle of nowhere. It was great because I was able to plug in one of those little power banks and just charge it in my bag while I was waiting to shoot the next set.
I am a big fan of USB-C everything. I mean, just give me
Yeah.
all the power through USB-C, I'm great with that. But the Q3 has a unique feature as well. It's the first Leica to offer Q charging, where with one of their bases, you can put this camera just on top of the base and it's gonna charge wirelessly. With the Leica Q1 and the Q2, we had contrast detect focus, which certainly did its job. It was okay, but we want something more. We want more demanding users nowadays. So Leica has added phase detection into the Leica Q3. Now it works very well. You've got all kinds of different modes, from spot focusing to zones, but the included face and eye detection and animal detection is a very welcome addition. However, when you put it on and you look at your first subject, I guarantee you're going to smile and be a little bit amused because it highlights both eyes with these rectangles. And so you have kind of this cartoon character looking at you in the screen all of a sudden. I found it a little bit distracting. I would have liked to see those a little more subtle, or maybe just the option just to do face only without eye detection. But I am happy that Leica is improving their autofocus on this camera. They're making it much more usable. And once you get past the comical side of the eye focus, I think the autofocus is really going to surprise you.
Well, the sunshine is back out and we found a beautiful mural to talk a little bit about image quality.
And we also found out that you really love the color purple.
I do. I got a little excited about the purple mural. So we had to come over here, check it out, maybe shoot a few photos of it. And speaking of color, I have to say, I mean, the images that come out of this camera with the 60 megapixel sensor and that new Maestro 4 processor are just like a special sauce. They look so good. I love them out of camera.
Now we talk about the Leica optics all the time, and they are legendary in that world, but it's the whole process. It's the quality of the sensor. It's how they process all the information that really leads to this amazing quality color and files that just sort of pop.
Yeah, and we have to say the 60 megapixel sensor is also found in the M11.
We can go up to 4 frames per second now without losing anything.
Yeah,
If
continuous autofocus, exposure, everything.
Yeah, if we want to, we can go all the way up to 15 frames per second, but we do go down to 12-bit, and we certainly lose autofocus at that.
Yeah, and this is nice because it gives you, again, that extra versatility, flexibility. So although this is kind of like your everyday camera, but in a pinch, if you wanted to shoot something that was a little bit faster action, you have that extra flexibility. What do you think about it being able to shoot in 8K cinema, 420 10-bit for video recording?
I'm actually very surprised by this addition from Leica. I mean, that it shoots video, period, let alone 8K video, considering that the M11 doesn't shoot video at all.
Yeah, it's an interesting choice. I mean, a lot of people might think, oh, the Q3 is more of a stills photographer's camera, and they've still made it mostly that. I mean, this doesn't have an audio input for putting in an extra additional microphone. You have to use the internal audio ports, but I think the bottom line is it can do it. Right now, Drew is filming us with the Leica in 4K 60, 420 10-bit, and you can tell us what you think of the look of the video footage, and then we can also talk about the sound.
Yeah, right now we're recording audio directly into the Leica through its built-in microphones. We're also recording video into our Rode mics through the Panasonic GH6, and if we switch back and forth, you'll certainly be able to hear the difference of audio quality.
Yeah, and I mean, that goes to show just the difference in having a lavalier microphone versus just an in-camera microphone. It is, you know, not the best that you don't have the option to add in a microphone. And I think that just speaks to the use case of why you would use video on this camera.
I 100% think so. I mean, Leica put in a very powerful processor into this Q3, so it can shoot 8K video. Why not throw it in there? But I don't think it's going to be taken as a very serious video tool. So for me, I'm looking at it kind of like the versatility of this camera. I mean, we have a macro mode. We have this great 28mm that we can crop into, but why not throw video into it as well? Make it even that much more versatile if I'm taking it with me everywhere I go. All right, Evelyn, I know you took this camera to a little music festival the other weekend. What did you think of this camera when using it?
Yeah, well, first of all, I have to say a little shout out to Lilo Music Festival. It was an awesome time in this little village called Milo, Alberta. Who knew that it'd be such a great time? But I really enjoyed it. And I think part of it was my experience with the Leica Q3 was very enjoyable. I've liked the entire Q series, but this adds some refinements and some features that other Leica cameras actually don't even have.
Now, I really like the Q2, and I was very much looking forward to this camera, and it really didn't disappoint. I mean, when you first look at it, I had a similar experience where I'm like, oh, that's the price point. It's a little steep for my liking, but the more I use it, the more I see the results, the more I like this camera, the more I want one.
Yeah, they've still maintained the very robust, good feeling, simplistic Leica design that has all that tactile quality to it. But at the same time, they've put in some modern features like having the hybrid contrast and face detection autofocus. We thought that performed quite well. USB-C charging. We have the nice electronic viewfinder that just aids to your experience, both photographing and video.
Exactly. I mean, the video is something I can, live with or without. It's not a big deal for me. Ultimately, I'm buying this camera because I want to capture life. I want to capture a street, and I want to capture like everyday occurrences. And that's where this camera excels. It begs to be carried with you everywhere you go, and just to capture great moments in life.
Yeah, and it's a nice addition to somebody's kit. So if they have a system, you don't necessarily have to invest in a whole Leica setup. You can buy this full package and be able to enjoy the quality that comes out of the Leica imagery, the optics, and being able to just have a Leica and feel really cool with it.
Now, I really like the simple design, like you mentioned. I love that it's so simple. Leica's made it a very simple process to navigate the camera. You don't have to spend hours learning the menu system. Everything's right there, but they are moving forward. They're not staying just in the old sort of school.
Yeah, it feels super refined.
Yeah, I mean, adding on the articulating screen, you don't have to use it if you don't want to, but it's there, and I love it for doing sort of waist level shooting or low angle shooting. It's nice that they're adding this onto it.
Yeah, they've definitely hit the sweet spot as far as coming with a camera that a lot of people are excited about. I mean, we have tons of orders at the camera store for this camera, so I think the biggest question is going to be, will Leica be able to keep up with the demand? And of course, we want to know, what do you guys think about this camera? Does it hit all of the features that you'd like to see in it? What do you think of the price point? Would you go for it, or would you want something more like the M11? Would you invest and get all the lenses and everything? Let us know in the comments below.
And what do you guys think of them adding 8K video to this very high-end point-and-shoot style camera? Make sure you follow us on Instagram.
And if you're new to our channel, please subscribe, hit the notification bell, and we'll catch you again very soon.
Hey, thanks for checking out this episode. If you want to check out more of our recent content, click up here. And if you're Canadian and you want to support local, check out thecamerastore.com down here.